Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. Today, a close-up look at a firearm I've been trying to get my hands on for quite a while, and that is FN's 5.7. Very cleverly named there by the folks at FN, 5.7 by FN. A pistol chambered in 5.7 by 28, and a companion piece to their kind of personal defense weapon, the PS90, which is a little small rifle chambered in the same round. Very high-speed round. Looks like a little rifle cartridge, lightweight, fast, and shoots for long distances. So this firearm is on loan from a friend of the channel who knows that I recently picked up the Palmetto State 5.7 Rock. And in the very near future, I will have a side-by-side tabletop and range comparison of both firearms, as well as lots of footage of this being fired. I am new to the 5.7 world and can't wait to see how this gun performs. So this is, again, an older model. The best I can tell, this one was made in 2018. It comes in a giant case with 3 20-round mags and the spent chamber that is dated May 28, 2018. So I believe it's around the 2018 mark that this thing was produced. The newer models, they all come black and FDE. I think the FDB, by the way, is the best color by far, but the new ones do come with different optic mounts, and I think they have a few other upgrades as well. So this one, I'll tell you, I've always been curious about them, and once my friend gave it to me, I've not been able to put it down. It's a super interesting gun that feels great, and I just catch myself dry firing all the time and looking at the details of this very unique firearm. So again, we'll just do a quick walk around and look at the internals. I'll also tell you, this is very interesting, this is a hammer-fired gun. FN is kind of sneaky that way. Their reflex I also carry is a hammer-fired gun, but they look like strikers that have internal hammers in there. So, and again, we'll look at the hammer once I take this thing apart. Specs on this thing, I don't remember all the details, but it's about a 8.2 inch overall length with the 4.8 inch barrel, so just under 5 inches on the barrel. Interesting, the trigger, they have a very wide range of trigger weights. I haven't done my trigger pulls, but it ranges from like 4.5 to 7.5 pounds, so they say. And I've heard historically people don't love these triggers. I'll give you my thoughts on it when I get to the trigger in just a second. But I'll start up top where at the back, this thing does come with adjustable sights. You have a standard 3-dot sight picture there that I cannot get to focus on, but you have the adjustable rear sight there, very tall, and I don't know how much it moves. That's kind of odd. And then you have a very tall front sight as well. So I'm curious how the sight picture will perform up there. Also, I'm fascinated by how small that the barrel is there. Such a small round coming out. I'm just not used to that at all. Now, one of the first very unique features about this firearm is the fact that it looks like it's all polymer, including the slide, which would be very hard to do since there's small explosions happening here and there's a lot of heat. But this is a steel slide with a polymer cover, and we'll look at that when we take this thing apart and you can see a little more detail. But polymer frame and polymer covered steel slide. Hanging very, very small round flying out of there. It does have front and rear cocking serrations, as well as a full-size pick rail. You can get lots of things on there, and a very interesting little hangover there on the front. So again, very uniquely designed. You do have some texture in the front if you're a finger wrapper of the front of the trigger, and you also don't have very much of an undercut there as well. And so trigger, but it is still very ergonomic. It doesn't look sexy like my P30 from H&K. It doesn't have all the curves, but I still think it feels really, really nice. And notice how wide the grip is here. That's because the magazine is also very wide, as this thing houses many rifle rounds, or so they look like anyway. So very, very interesting gun that has a very wide grip here with not much of an undercut, but still feels really, really nice. And while I'm on the grip, you have a little bit of slickness here on the side, and you have the groove that all guns have now for your finger and or your thumb, but you have good texturing on the front strap here and also on the back strap. So while there is a big undercut, and since this gun doesn't recoil at all, I think you'll be fine with recoil management on this firearm. Now, probably the most controversial detail of the FN57 is the placement of the safety right here near your trigger finger and or support hand, as opposed to back here in 1911 world where your thumb can easily actuate it. Here, this is an AMP safety, by the way. You can actuate it with your trigger finger and or your support hand. So I know it gets lots of hate online. I don't hate it so far, but I am curious if I carry it unsafe like this and go to the range. I'm assuming I can just sweep down with my trigger finger or sweep down with my support hand. I do wonder if I start riding that, if I don't push up accidentally when I'm firing. We'll see when I get to the range if that's really the case or not, but that's the one knock I've read, that sometimes people hit it with their fingers accidentally. I think it's a very unique placement for a very unique gun, very interesting feature that's kind of cool. Now, slide release is only on this side, so it's mostly a right-hander's gun. And before I get to the takedown lever, we'll take a quick look at the trigger. This does have a magazine disconnect, so if you disconnect this, you're safe, and you're cocked, you're on fire, you can't pull the trigger. By the way, if you put it on safe, trigger stops there. But once you've actuated to safety, you have to put the magazine in, and then you can pull the trigger. And you need a little bit of take up. You hit a wall and a straight pull. Try that again. So a little bit of a take up. You're right at the wall, and a good clean break. It maybe feels heavy, but again, I've read people don't love the triggers here. It doesn't feel terrible to me. Let's look at the reset. So reset is there with, you're right back at the wall, no take up at all, and you go bang again. One more time, reset. Right there, and you're right pretty much at the wall, and breaks again. So I don't think the trigger feels awful. I have seen people shoot these things really fast, so I'll see if I can do that at the range as well. So that is a very cool walk around the outside of a very cool gun. We'll take a quick look inside as well. To disassemble it, we just check for clear, but always empty your magazine, check for clear. And you'll use this takedown lever right here, which is a button that you have to push all the way to the back while slightly pulling back on the slide. So you'll pull the slide back about like this and push this back, but you want to push all the way, not halfway like that. It felt like it stopped. You got to push, and then you got to push harder and let go of the slide, and you'll see that the slide then comes forward of the rear of the frame here, and you simply push forward and it comes off like that. Now inside the slide, you can see the recessed area for the hammer to come up there, as well as your barrel, which is very interesting like there. And you push forward, and there is your recoil system and your barrel all in one. Again, super small round coming out of there, and not much of a feed ramp to be seen on here. If you look at it, it looks like, well, I'll come back to that in a second. Inside the slide, we did the slide already, but inside the slide under the barrel, while this is a gun that's probably 7 or 8 years old, it doesn't have a whole lot of wear on it, so I'm not sure how much it was ever shot. But again, not much of a feed ramp. If you look at the magazine, these things feed pretty much right in there. The barrel is going to sit pretty much right there, and the rounds will just feed in. But again, now that I have the magazine disconnect in, you'll see the hammers here. I'll pull the trigger and hold on to this, and there is your hammer, your internal hammer. So very interesting design. I've been sneaking those internal hammers into a couple of their firearms. I think it's a very cool feature. Now, reassembly, one tricky step, but first of all, you reinsert the barrel back into the slide. As such, make sure you keep this thing pretty straight up and down. But when you reassemble it, you have to watch this button right here and make sure that's not forward again, because it will not go back on properly. You want to make sure it's pushed back at least halfway, and then start with putting this into here, and make sure that the rear of the slide is in front of those grooves there. And you'll know you're good if you set it on like this and there's no gaps from front to rear. If this is pressed forward, there'll be a gap here and you can't put it back in the battery. So now you just pull back, and you'll see that this actually slides forward now. And you're all put back together, reinsert the magazine to check for function, and you're good to go. That is my very quick walk around. A very cool gun, in my humble opinion, the FN57. As always, A, thank you for watching, and 2, if you know anything or have any opinions on the 5.7, please sound off in the comments. I would absolutely love to hear them because I want to learn more about this gun. Thanks again for watching.